Okay, welcome everybody from the hallowed halls of Epic Financial Strategies in the Epic Productions podcast studio. We are InfinityX, where we give a stage and a microphone to human excellence in the infinite pursuit of merging ecosystems and creating infinite sales opportunities for entrepreneurs, for business owners, and for like-minded individuals. And tonight is absolutely no different. We are so humbled and so excited to have the one and only author, international speaker, and the founder of Your World Within, Mr. Eddie Pinero. Eddie, how are you this evening, my friend?
I'm great. No, thank you for having me on. I'm pumped.
It's the honor and the privilege is absolutely ours. And I'm going to be joined here by my partner and the CEO and founder of Epic Financial Strategies, Rob Gill, here in one moment. But how is your Tuesday going so far, bro?
Zero complaints. Got a little workout in early and just been doing the usual, writing some speeches.
Fantastic. Oh, for writing some speeches. Okay. So yeah. I'm gonna play in that space for a few minutes, but Eddie, I always say that to know where you're going, you have to know where you come from. Right. And so where did it start for you? Where did you grow up and where are you from in the world?
Sure. Yeah. Military family. So I moved around quite a bit. And that might have something to do with my proclivity to change. But bounced around and grew up outside of Los Angeles, went to college near Boston, in Miami now, or the Fort Lauderdale area. So moved around quite a bit and been doing the Your World Within thing for like 7 years now. So
fantastic. And are you're from the Los Angeles area originally?
Yeah, well, that's where I spent most of my childhood. But like I said, I was born in Japan, Virginia Beach, lived in Phoenix for a while, then like a nice chunk, like 10 or 12 years outside of LA. So I kind of consider that my home, but then high school and college were in Boston. So a little bit of everything.
And what was it like growing up in a military family?
I think you definitely see the discipline, right? That's pretty evident right out of the bat, or right out of the gate, I should say. But it was good. I mean, moving around was, you're very dependent on family, and we have a strong, a strong connection and have each other's back, and that's always been important for me. It's like it's one of those things where I feel like it's always helped me to take risks. Knowing that you have that core group with you, all the time. So definitely a meaningful, important part of my life.
It's incredible. And, as a son of someone who was in the Air Force, and what part of the military did your parents serve?
Grandfather was Navy. My father was Army.
That's incredible. West Point is relatively close to where I live currently.
Oh,
but
okay.
As the son of an Air Force veteran, from one family to another, I thank you and your family for their service. I think at this time, it's never ever been more relevant and more important. So God bless and thank you very, very much for that. Eddie, I would like to make an introduction as well. As always, I am joined by my partner and the founder of Epic Financial Strategies, Mr. Rob Gill. Rob, how are you this evening, brother?
How's it going, Rob?
Thank you so much. Hey, Eddie, what's up, man? Happy Trajectory Tuesday, brother.
Loving it. Good to see you.
Yeah, great to see you. And I just jumped on. I'm not going to disturb the flow between you and David, but to echo his point, thank you not only for serving,
But just for clarity, I didn't serve. Okay. I just came from a family that did. Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank your family. My dad was in the Korean War as well.
Oh wow.
Yeah, he was also a police officer for 27 years. What I'm going to do is I'm going to turn it back to Dave, and then I'll start, integrating my way in as you go through the process. But Ed, just so you know, real quick, who we are and what this channel is about and why it was created. During COVID, we had right before that gone from a sales meeting perspective in our practice from 8 to 175 new sales meetings a month. And it happened because we have a partner, Sean Callaghy, who is the founder of Unblinded, and he's created a map on integrity on how to take people through sales with integrity from hello to yes. And we did really, really well. And as a result of that, we had good momentum. COVID happened, and David, my partner, and I said, listen, we should share with everybody how they could increase their sales 17-fold, right? That was the number.
19-fold.
19-fold. So we wound up doing that. We did a couple of these meetings and we realized, wait, why should we say 19-fold? Because we do believe in transformational vocabulary. What you visualize, you become. So we didn't want to get stuck at 19. So we then changed the name to InfinityX. And then it was about honoring good folks like yourself, right? As a result of this formula, it's founded and unblinded. Now in the month of September, we're going to have over 1,000 sales meetings this month. And, we're tracking towards the end of the year, getting close to 2,000. And we've gone from 8 to 20 different advisors, agents during that time frame. So we always want to honor what got us here, especially as we're taking great folks like yourself through the process. But with that, David, I'm going to turn it back to you. And, I'll pick and choose my spots.
Awesome. Thank you, Rob. I appreciate that. So Ed, when did you identify that you had the entrepreneurial spirit to really call it invent your own world and invent your own job? Was that in high school or, tell me a little bit more about that.
Yeah, well, I think it was more understanding what I didn't like than what I did, and first of all, to backtrack, like, I think it's incredible what you guys have done in your story. I said kind of at the beginning of COVID, like, it's such a difficult time, particularly last year, and knocked so many people on their ass. And it was like the folks that can find a way to use this to propel themselves will really come out ahead. And there's some value here if you look for it. And when I hear stories like that, I just get so pumped. I get so excited. So cap tip to you guys. That's really awesome. To answer your question though, the entrepreneur thing, it was a very specific, like, turning point in my life. Like, for me, it was not what can I do? What can I make? What can I delve into? It was like, how can I not screw up? What am I supposed to do? Right. And I lived my whole life like that. I got good grades in high school to get to a good college. I got into this like future leaders program after college and learned some great things, met some beautiful, incredible people. But at some point when you're driving to work thinking I'd want to get a flat tire, it's like you have to make some changes. And so that's when I started asking myself, what do you love to do, man? Like, what, that sweet spot, which I'm sure you guys talk about all the time. It's like, what do you love to do? And how does that intersect with where you add value to the world? Because if you invest some time into that and you find that, things will change, and they'll change quick. And so that's when I started really emphasizing that.
And you went to Holy Cross, correct?
I did. Yeah.
And what was your focus in school? Did you know that you were going to apply, what you were studying in school to the business that you're running currently?
I had no idea. I mean, it's in the ways are sort of indirect too. I was a political science major, so I was like politics. And when I look back now, I think the value that I found there was, one, learning how to think critically and write. Like, you write so many papers on, you're crafting narratives out of very subjective things and trying to prove your point, and you become someone that can articulate yourself well if you do that enough. And so that's definitely the value. And then the crew team was a big part of my life. In college, that really shaped me. The discipline, the structure, just being part of something bigger than myself. I always joke around. I thought I worked hard. I had no idea what hard work was, right? Until you have a couple coaches screaming at you at 5:30 in the morning. So, definitely a valuable time, but it didn't affect me the way I thought it would. Very, very indirect.
So you took the 5:30 a.m. club, and later on in your professional career, were you able to apply that towards some of the principles that you do today?
Yeah, I think, again, it's always weird to hear myself say this, like the value, like the things as I was living them, I didn't appreciate them as much as I do now. I'm a runner now. I run all the time, and the parallels between running and life are everything. I've learned so much from crew and running and the sport, and just the idea that, one, you don't have to be there in the first place. You can sit it out. You just miss the benefit. You learn that the struggle becomes your strength. You learn that when things hurt and you find a way to push through that is when you feel the best, and you look in the mirror and you're proud of yourself, and all these things that are like, yeah, it's running, or yeah, it's crew, or, athletics, but it's life. They're the same thing.
I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. How many miles a day do you run, or a week?
It depends. I'm like trying to run less and mix in a little bit of strength training, but I have one route that's about 5.5 miles and then one that I do that's about 9. So I'm running about twice a week now.
Wow. Awesome. And did you do any marathons?
I've done a half, and then I did like a couple weird, like 500-mile treks with some buddies, like relays across Texas. And
wow. How long did that take? How many was that? Like a couple
long
weeks?
did it take? No, it was like 2 or 3 days. We were in this. It's a really interesting story. He's the guy. He's got this like RV, and he just calls me up, and he's like, big fan of your channel. I go on this run with some employees. Do you want to come? And I was like, why not? Right. And he's a friend of mine now, but it's like you run 5 or 6 miles, the trailer picks you up, continues forward, you rest for about 45 minutes, and then you're back out. So it's like a continuous thing. Yeah, it was fun. It was good.
Has this, like those kind of opportunities, I'll call it, has that have had any impact on your business at all?
What do you mean by opportunity? Like random things like that?
Yeah. Relationship capital. Does it translate into your business at all in any way, shape, or form? For anyone that's watching us, an entrepreneur.
Yeah. It's been everything. The friendships and the people that have come into my life.
Wow.
Yeah, it's inspirational, and you learn. Like, it's one of these things when you're sort of in your own world, your own box, you don't even realize there are areas in your life where you can level up.
Yeah.
But some of my good friends now and people that I talk to, maybe not on a daily basis, but a couple times a week, reached out of nowhere. One of my good friends, a lawyer in Ohio, he calls me. He's like, do you want to have an accountability buddy? And I'm like, I have no idea what that is. And he's like, basically send each other a quote or something at 5 a.m. Just make sure we're up, pump each other up. And I was like, sure. And, a couple of years later, it's, we have a very good friendship.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Back to you, brother Dave. What do you got?
So you graduated Holy Cross when?
2010. Yeah, 2010.
And then immediately after that, did you enter into the workforce, or did you just go right at your business? Like, what did you do next?
Right into the workforce. Yeah, there was this. It was property casualty insurances program called Future Leaders, and basically they move you around the company to different spots and kind of get you a feel for the organization. And because most of us had never, no experience with that type of the industry, let alone the specific business. So, and the part that I stayed the most at, that I enjoyed the most, was creating like training and helping bring people on, and painting the picture, telling the story in ways that I thought was most valuable, having lived it, right, and seen the ins and outs of, coming in cold. What are different ways to tell that story that help prepare people? So, yeah, I was there for 4 years, 2 years in Roanoke, Virginia, and then they transferred me back to Boston for 2 years. And then that's after 4 years when I parted ways.
But I find that so interesting. So you went from poli-sci to P&C, right?
Yeah.
How did that transpire? Like, what was the attraction to property casualty?
There wasn't. I mean, there was zero.
He needed
attraction.
a job.
Yeah, there was. But when I say that I wanted to do the right thing without thinking for a second about what I truly enjoyed or loved or what was best like I just didn't. I thought, this is a reputable offer. The company's reputable. It pays well. The girls at the bar might be impressed by it. Like, I'm in. And then, it's doing it over and over and over again that you're like, no, this is not my jam. This is not my jam. And I always joke around because, like, I have good friends that are in the industry, obviously, and they love it and they thrive on it. And they think what I'm doing now is just, the uncertainty, and you guys know the ups and downs of entrepreneurship, the trials and tribulations. It's like, sometimes you feel like everything's working for you. And sometimes you're like, well, big swing and a miss here. So it depends what motivates you and what pushes you. And I love the idea that you wake up and what you create is what you get. So.
When did you have the aha moment? Like, okay, I'm having some success property casualty wise, right? I'm getting, you eat what you kill to a degree, but when did you have that moment where you said, okay, it's time to pivot. It's time to make a change?
Yeah. Year 4. So I was building a home studio, and just like I was playing acoustic shows around Boston, writing music. I was writing speeches, kind of just doing creative stuff. I had a camera. I would go out and try and make like little short films, blog, creative, or just all this stuff, and kind of learning what I liked and what I didn't. But that made the transition seamless. That made the transition like, well, seamless is overstating. It was not seamless, but it made it doable because I had created this world that I had one foot in, one foot out, you know? So when it was time, it was time. And so I left that job, and I always say, and just stop me if I'm rambling in places you guys don't want to go, but
Please enjoy.
one of the most important lessons of my life was right after I left the corporate world, and I was like, I want to make an album, like a 7-song EP, and I want to write it and produce it. And I sat there in my room for 3 days.
Awesome.
Or 3 months, and wrote it and edited it, engineered it. I got like, all these copies. I sent it to every bar in Boston, radio stations in Boston, colleges in Boston. And it would not be an exaggeration to say not one person got back to me. And I think that was the first time, and this is why it was such a pivotal thing. Like, how could it be great, right? It's the first time I'd ever truly done that start to finish. Like, I'm not an engineer, right? I'm just navigating around Pro Tools and some of the software. But it's like, is the first time I've ever put that much energy into something, taken that big of a risk and gotten 0 back. And I had to learn not to take it personally. And I had to learn that.
Can I play? How did you learn not to take it personal? For all the folks that are out there thinking that you put 90 days into it behind closed doors, sent it out to every radio station, bar, and not one person got back. Can you talk about that feeling and then talk about how you overcame that from a strategic, let's call it a map perspective, a massive action plan?
Yeah. Well, it's like, what options do you have? Right. Because at first, like, I was devastated, and even today, like, it wouldn't feel good, but the point is you learn to cope with it, and you learn it's not a reflection of you. It's part of the process. And I think at that time, not knowing that,
well said. Thank you.
It was, it was like, well, I'm a failure. I missed the mark. This is not for me. I made a mistake quitting. And what you're really getting there is the lesson that, look, the world's not going to give you anything. And it doesn't mean you're not good. It means you need to step up and find ways to add more value. You need to become better, because value is what makes the world go round. And that was
sorry, what was the, okay, you asked yourself the right question, right? You asked an empowering question. What led after the no one knocking on the door based on that 90 days? And listen, I'm not sure if this happened to you or not, but maybe some people close to us kind of tells us everything's going to be okay, or sometimes they could hurt us. I don't know if they did or not for you, but what was the missing ingredient that then led to the people knocking on your door?
I think it was the pivot, like being willing to continue to move forward, and the components of what I did that I loved to take and continue to believe in and move forward with, but also not be stubborn, be willing to adjust. And, I talk about it all the time. There's that sweet spot. Again, what are you good at? Because you have to love it and you have to add value, to the world. And so the reality is, something that I've learned over time, we all have our strengths. And, I'm an above average writer. Singing, I could spend my whole life doing it. I would never be, I'd never win The Voice. So it was like, well, take that thing you love and put everything you have into being great at that thing. And so that's what I started doing. I'm like, I started in a different way, right? So picture this, one of the first videos for the channel, I composed like cinematic background music, right? So like, now I have my music, I got that itch, it's like done. All right. So now I want to write a speech over it. And I'm thinking in my head, like, how Apple can sell you an iPhone without showing you an iPhone? There's people dancing around and you want to cry and you're like, I don't know why, but this just feels good.
Yes.
I'm like, well, that's the storytelling I want to do. And that's what I started doing. Just taking very mundane things in my life, you know, the L's that I just told you about, the wins, everything in between. And I'd write 3 to 5 minute speeches with music and make it this little piece of art and put it out into the world. And what I found is not only did I feel like $1,000,000 and love doing it, but people were reaching out and they're like, oh my God, like this perspective helps me. And I didn't think about it this way, or I listen to this when I wake up and it you know, gets me focused. And I'm like, okay, here we go. Right. And you start to like, it's almost like all of those little steps and mistakes, like slowly began to turn that gear. And now I see it going. And that's kind of the beginning.
That's amazing. He asked himself the right question, empowering questions that led to, you know, obviously momentum and everything else. Back to you, brother.
Yeah. Yeah. And when, you know, post that, you know, call it failure or successful failure.
Success step.
Yeah. Success step.
Right,
Success step.
Exactly. That, you know, the success step, you know, what, you know, you pivoted, you did you start on the, on the social media front in terms of putting out the Your World Within, or that was the birth of where Your World Within came from, correct?
Yeah. The crux of my platform has always been YouTube. And, you know, I think that's the beauty of the platform. Obviously it removes the middleman, you know, it's 2021. That doesn't surprise anyone, but I still don't take that for granted. Like I don't need to ask anyone or run anything by anyone or have a producer give me a thumbs up or a green light. It's like, nope, done, out, right out to the world. And also the marketing. I mean, it's, you know, I'm almost 258,000 subscribers on YouTube, and I've never paid for marketing.
That's incredible. How long have you had YouTube, if you don't mind me asking?
Since the very beginning of this. So it was like late 2014.
Good for you. And quick question for the entrepreneur that are out there. Do you have in your YouTube channel a process where people can come to a landing page and reach out to you directly or your team directly for whatever your services are? Is that existing in your
I do.
channel
Yeah,
right now?
My website's very minimalist. It's yourworldwithin.com, and it's a contact page, and people are welcome to reach me with any inquiries or requests or anything like that.
That's tremendous. Go ahead, Dave. I didn't mean to cut that off.
No, not a
That's
problem. Thanks.
Great access.
No, thank you for that, Robin. And that's a good access point as well. So Eddie, take us into Your World Within. What exactly do you do? Talk a little bit about your company and what it is that you focus in on for your clients.
Yeah, sure. So I consider it storytelling. I consider it, you know, helping people be better and live better lives and reach their potential. It's always amazed me, and you live this, or you have to live this, I feel like, to really understand it. And when I did, it just, you know, the idea that such a small change in perspective can change your world. It can change your life. Like I've heard quotes that are, you know, mind blowing to me. Ryan Holiday's "confidence is earned." That's 3 words. And I think about it every day, you know? And so I'm like, I want to create art and messaging that's also valuable. And I don't want it to be valuable to a specific group, which I know in a lot of ways people say is the death of a business, but I want it to be broad. I want the athlete and the artist and the entrepreneur and the, you know, the exec, like I want everyone to understand this because we feel the same things. And so that's really what it's like. I consider it 2 tracks. You know, you guys asked about social media a few minutes ago, and that's kind of what it is. It's like storytelling on social media. And so that is a lot of work. I exhaust a lot of energy there, putting out those videos, writing those speeches, translating to a podcast, Instagram, now TikTok, which I never thought I'd hear myself say, but it's actually an incredible platform.
It's like the gold rush of the 1800s TikTok.
You're not wrong. You're not wrong, man. Yes. And it's funny. I was late to jump on Instagram too. I'm like, I don't want anything to do with this. And now that 3 years I was stubborn, I'm like kicking myself for, you know, you got to get in early. So yeah, that's the social side. And then for, you know, business, I write a lot of speeches for people. And it ranges, you know, across the spectrum, create videos for folks, and then keynote speaking is a huge part of what I do.
That's amazing. So do people hire you to do their social content? Is that something that you do, or is it just subject matter specific for somebody? Yeah,
well, it's funny because like, especially starting out, you don't really have the luxury of saying no in a lot of ways, right? So I find that I don't enjoy like managing social media for folks. And I don't think that's the route that I want to go, but like I'll create videos for people to use, like when they have a product launch or, something for their website or the beginning of a conference, they want a video to roll out. So that's the type of thing that I usually
highlight reels. Like
Highlight-
a highlight reel, like the beginning of a conference, you would do like a 3-minute highlight reel. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, like there will generally be a theme, and I'll just sort of talk about that in the context of the audience and what they're looking for, and kind of get people feeling good about the world they're living in.
Awesome.
Yep.
You know, and COVID brought out the entrepreneurial spirit in a lot of people, right? Because the traditional 9 to 5 got sacrificed quite a bit, and people started looking at, hey, well, what are other verticals that I can take a look at to try to drive, additional revenue? But also, people were not prepared when COVID came in, right? Especially if you're running a business, it was a hard time for people, from a liquidity perspective. So talk a little bit about some of the struggles, if you don't mind, that you, or some of the encounters that you had as you were building and building out your brand, and what did you do strategically to pivot around those struggles to, keep the forward trajectory happening in your business?
Yeah, I mean, it's beautifully said. It was sort of the iceberg that we're all moving towards. And then when it happens, you realize like keynote speaking, like speaking engagements, boom, gone. Right. So there's 5 or 6 a month that are just not happening now. And then, I had a few clients in California that their business just shrunk, and, they couldn't continue to do what they were doing. So it's like, all right, well, here's your opportunity then to truly double down on social, crush social media. I mean, you're in a world now where you can make money sitting in your bedroom. If you're putting out content, you're adding value that way. Well, you have a bedroom and you sure as hell have time. So it was, really increasing the YouTube, focusing on YouTube, learning about the algorithm, which sounds trivial, but it's not. Like, if you look at 2014 to even 19 for me, 3 to 5 minute speeches, 3 to 5 minute videos. And now the algorithm just doesn't share those. So it's like, you got to change with the platform. So now everything's 10, 12, 15 minutes.
So yeah, I was thank you, Ed, thank you for that. Just for the folks that are, launching their YouTube channel, can you talk a little bit deeper into not only the algorithm, because I think YouTube has these things called shorts now, and it seems to be the buzz, but I don't know if it is or not. Are you suggesting that videos longer than 10 minutes capture the algorithm better than the videos that are shorter than 10 minutes?
Yeah, it's funny. So I work with Evan Carmichael, who I consider to be like one of the, he knows the platform better than anyone else. And so, he's a coach and a mentor to me for YouTube. And so he tests and he tests and he tests and he tests. And I've heard other people say this as well, we're still kind of unsure the correlation between shorts and everything else. They're definitely separate. So it's kind of an unknown right now, but as far as like long form videos, YouTube really values watch time. And so if you put out a 3-minute video and your audience watches it 100%, you're going to get a 3-minute watch time per average. If you put out a 20-minute video and they watch 5 minutes of it, you're getting a longer watch time, even though they watched a smaller percentage, right? So for example, I put out a 3-hour video last week, and just all these speeches, put them together, and it's like blown up. It's very quickly too, because it's got a 40-minute watch time, and that like, so paying attention to that is certainly valuable.
You know what's interesting, and thank you for sharing that. And I'm going to speak directly to my team behind the camera as I'm saying this to you, because one of our partners is Chris Crone. He is a top 20 global influencer on YouTube. He has 700,000 subscribers, and his ability to monetize his channel pound for pound based on the subscribers is pretty incredible. And he had made the shift where he does 3 videos a week instead of 5. But the 3, one of them is, let's say, a podcast like this for an hour, right? And then 2 videos that are directly in a studio that are about 20 minutes each. Whereas before that, the whole first 2 years that I knew him, it was really 8 to 10 minute videos every day. and he's made that shift. So I think that's what you're kind of saying. You had the long form video, right, which would be the podcast version. And then you create the other 18-minute videos. You did 3 hours. And yeah, it's been, he did make a jump by about at least another 100,000 subscribers, I'd say, in the last, I don't know, maybe 8 or 9 months. I'm not really sure, but it did make a jump because he was kind of status quo a little bit at a certain number. And once he made that adjustment, to your point, and thank you for sharing that, it reinforces a lot of stuff for us over here. That's pretty cool. So thanks. I appreciate that.
That's awesome to hear. And I'm happy he made that jump. It's like, you really have to experiment with that stuff. And I did the same thing. Like last summer, I was putting out 6 videos a week, 6. And I'm like, I'm willing to commit. I'm willing to do, if this sucks, it sucks, but let's have it suck now. Right. So 10 years from now, and then you tinker with some things and you realize it's like, wait, if I cut this in half, and make the videos a little bit longer, everything goes up, right? So yeah, it's like there's this situational awareness you really have to constantly be cognitive of.
Yeah, and in your business, you constantly got to be innovating at all times, right? There's no like, all right, this is the way it is going forward. You want to be able to kind of triple down on what works, but also eliminate what's not working,
Yeah.
And yeah, this is a really cool conversation. Back to you, brother.
Who is the ideal avatar for your company? Like, who do you look at? Who you look at, and who are you marketing towards?
Great question.
The age range is 18 to what is 20, 32? 18 to 25 demo is definitely the biggest graphic or demographic. And then I think the second might be 26 to 32, if I'm not mistaken. But it's funny because it has shifted. When I think about like on Instagram, my audience is like 90% female.
Yes.
Same.
Well, the biggest growing. It's funny because my son's high school teammates, mothers love my Instagram.
That's the way it goes, man.
And that's between like because I'm 50, but that's like between the age of 40 and 50-year-old women, right? They love it. It's crazy. And it's all about financial planning. That's all. It's not like I'm, going to the gym and working out and doing it's all like just knowledge about finances and what can $1 million give you in retirement, that kind of stuff. And it's interesting because I think what you're saying is the dynamic or the demographic changed based on how you styled up and changed your YouTube videos, I would assume.
Yeah, exactly. And there was, because running, it was very running heavy at first, right? And then I had this realization, and like again, there's sort of the rational side and the emotional side, and admittedly, like I took the emotional side and I'm sticking with that. It's like if you make it a running channel and you go all in, you're gonna get the mid-20s male millennial dudes that are very it's a very coveted demographic. But I just don't want to, I like to be able to sit down and just write about anything, and that's sort of the way that I've chosen to pursue it. So yeah. And it's like you were mentioning about your buddy, right? It's like you record something and it's, an hour. Well, from that, right? For me, TikTok and Instagram are female for sure. They're short. TikTok, 7 seconds sometimes longer, but short. Instagram short. So it's like, well, what would appeal to this audience? The most emotive, maybe softer part of the speech. And then as opposed to YouTube, where I think it's like 65% male. It's a lot more male. It's different. So it's, again, just sort of having that awareness.
Yeah. It's funny. I consider, and this is non-gender specific as I say this, so I don't want this to come across the wrong way. YouTube to me seems to be more like, I'm going to say the big leagues, right? Much more of a heavier lift. If done properly though, like for us, dude, we started our channel a year ago. We're about to get to 1,000 subscribers. But what's interesting is we average 40 really good sales appointments off our channel.
See, right? That's amazing. Yeah.
Yeah. And we're in the insurance space, just so you know. So now if I was to say, okay, 40 appointments, we're not buying 20 pairs of sneakers, right? These folks are sitting down and doing some really good business planning in the insurance space, right? So now that's a different profit margin based on our outlay, right? Like one person can pay for the channel for the year, truthfully, but just on averages could pay for it on a monthly basis the way it is now. So it's been a slow, we're I think 13, 14 months into it. It's been slow. We are close to 1,000. We do have over 2,500 watch time hours, to your point. And we've begun to make that shift to having one video during that week for an hour. And then the other 2 videos, copy and Chris's style for 20 minutes, just to see how that plays out. And you're making up great points, because you're right. If 100% of the people on your channel watch the 4-minute video versus 20% of the people watching a 20-minute video, the numbers are the same. So why not do more of the longer form videos? Now, on Instagram and TikTok, we get a lot of private messages on Instagram. They don't necessarily click the link and go to our landing page, but on TikTok they do.
Yeah.
So it's such an interesting.
Yeah. I never really thought that.
Yeah, that's how it is. A lot more people on TikTok challenge a lot of things that we say and get angry. Like, listen, dude, you know that.
Yeah, that's just life in the big city. Yeah.
Like with a 401k, when you take distributions, you understand that you get taxed at ordinary income. And I've done a couple of videos on that, and people went ballistic when I was telling them the truth about their 401k. You don't really get that on Instagram. And you definitely don't get that on YouTube, but you get a hostile environment on TikTok, but it's all good. You know what I mean? It's just fun, the whole process.
Yeah. No, that's a really good point. One of my my old business partners, Terrence McMahon, was he was a financial advisor and big in that space. And when we worked together, it was like he consistently making the point that his goal for his social network is very different than mine, right? So he's not thinking scale, because, to your point, if he's converting and getting sales off of his minimal audience, he's as happy as can be. Like, in a lot of ways, my content is the product, right? I'm monetizing the Spotifys and the YouTubes and the podcasts. And I'm not saying there's not stuff on the back end, but I'm thinking like, breadth and just wanting to get this to as many people as possible. So that's a really important thing to differentiate.
Yeah.
Eddie Pinero, founder of Your World Within. I saw a statistic. Do you have over 200 million streams globally since you founded your business? 200 million. Did I say that right? Across everything. Yeah.
Yeah.
Man,
it's amazing.
What that tells me is that you've enhanced, and I'll go back to what Rob was talking about before in terms of the benefit that we saw of leveling up during COVID, and how we, even founded this channel, right? How to 19x your sales. And we said, okay, well, that doesn't make any sense because we're putting a cap on that. It needs to be infinite opportunities, and infinite opportunities come when your stage and your microphone gets larger, right? And so what do you see from a growth perspective as you build out and you continue to scale out your larger stage and your larger microphone, Eddie? Like, where do you see yourself moving into?
I don't see much of like an infrastructure change. I think just it's a lot of focusing on the, being consistent and, making sure that I'm being smart and methodical and, leveraging what I have in different ways. It's like when you're growing quick, and it's happening on TikTok. Like, I haven't blown up on TikTok by any means, but I'm growing quicker than I thought there. So now it's like, okay, well, I need to allocate time there. Like, there's value there. And so the mind goes, all right, well, make more. And it's like, no, what can you do with what you have in front of you? And that's so often enough, so that was a big learning point for me.
Got it. And by the way, I'm going to put out to the audience, because we are streaming live, that if you do have a question, you're free to raise your hand in the chat. We have
please
about 20 live participants. So if you have a question, and I'll go into the comments here for a moment. Yeah, absolutely. In the chat, and one person said, "Go Crusaders," and nice. Obviously, continue to add value. So Eddie, as you continue to scale upward and as you continue to grow, what sort, if I were to retain you, right? If I were to retain you from a consulting perspective, are you doing coaching as well as writing?
Some consulting, but not like life coaching at the moment.
Got it. So
Well, can I ask one question?
Sure.
If you were to have it all, what would that look like? What does that look like for you? What's an ideal situation?
Yeah, I think so. I like the simplification of online creator, author, speaker. I mean, that to me gets me excited, and I'm in the midst of my first book, and doing the speaking thing, and that's definitely the path that gets me up in the morning. So that's it for sure.
That's awesome.
Apologize. I was just minimizing the chat there. So,
Oh, you're good.
Yep. So, I guess the last question that I have before I turn it back over to Rob is, Eddie, when you shuffle off and leave this mortal coil, right? To steal my partner's phrase, what do you want to be remembered for?
Giving people the tools to realize how powerful they are. I think there's this idea that, my grandfather said it to me, and, I pass it along in my messages and my videos and my speeches, that you're always stronger than you think you are. And I've been moved by this idea that the biggest things in life, like the things that we want, especially when they're far away, they're far off, they don't seem manageable because they're so big. Right. And so the reality is, like, if you can convince yourself to do the little things, the mundane things, to find value in the small victories, your life changes. Yeah. And so that's a long way of saying, if I can package that and hand that to people who need it most, when they need it most, that'd make me more than happy. That's my goal. So
incredible.
I think thank you for sharing that. And one of the things that every time I come across somebody successful, I'm always going to ask, what is your rituals? What separates you from the person that just can't get out of their own way by doing the little things? What is your process? Is there certain things you do every morning? There's certain things you do at night that kind of create that momentum?
Yeah, Charlie Munger had a quote that I really liked. He says, "You are your own experiment," essentially, and the idea is show up, right? So, like, I've tinkered with my daily schedule a million times. I've changed things, and funny enough, where I'm at now, I'm happier than where I've been in a long time. It's basically like that simplification being the goal, right? So when I wake up, there's three things that I think about. What's the physical activity, like the workout? What's the big project? And then I sort of bucket all the miscellaneous things that aren't my one big project into another bucket. And it just helps me see things very simply and stay on task. I strongly believe that, like, when you go to bed and you had this long checklist and you didn't get to it all, you don't see yourself as someone that conquered the day. And it's important, it's been said that, like, how we see ourselves is who we become. And so, like, when you put your head on the pillow at night, like, I want to make sure, as cliche and as corny as it may sound, like, I want to make sure that I did what I said I was going to do, because you start to own that identity. You start to become that. And that's a very transformative, powerful thing.
Thank you for sharing that. You want to ask a question?
Yeah, we got a couple of questions in the chat for you, Eddie. First question is,
who asked the question?
The question came in from Nikhil Ban, and the question is, I'm assuming he's saying what does your next level look like?
That's a great question.
Yeah, so the next level, it's like, it's funny. Like, you think of benchmarks, right? So for me, like, YouTube, maybe a 1 million subscriber benchmark, but is that going to feel different? Is that going to be different? Probably not. Right. So for me, it's just continuing to grow and use different mediums to evolve. Like the book thing is important. And,
by the way, the book, Eddie, is going to be great. Just so you know.
I appreciate it, brother.
Because I see what Chris does, and it really adds so much. And you have an audience already. It's going to be phenomenal.
I appreciate that. I'm excited. It's amazing how different it is, writing to speak versus writing to write, It's a different art. But that would be it in a nutshell: to continue to grow and expand and just help the people around me evolve and grow with the mediums that we're given.
Next question comes in from David Hammer. And
Hammer time. Hammer time.
Hammer time.
Hammer time.
Hammer time is attacking. The question is, what's the meaning behind naming your book While the World Sleeps?
Oh man, that's awesome. So I have an ebook on my website, It's called While the World Sleeps. And basically it's like short poems, thoughts, ideas. And it came from a video where the main line is, while the world sleeps, I stay awake.
Ass. You kick ass while the world sleeps.
While the world sleeps.
You kick ass.
That's it, man. That's it. And the idea is, that some of the most important things are the things that most people walk right by and don't give a second thought to. You mentioned a little while ago, the power of awareness. Mm-hmm. And it's like where most people, see defeat or, despair, if you can be the one that says, well, wait a minute, just like COVID, somewhere in there's a little bit of opportunity. There's something that can move me, whether it's a mile or a step, it can move me in the direction I need to go. That's what really inspired that. I'm like looking back, and I did my TEDx talk on this too. It's like just sometimes stepping into discomfort changes your life. I mean, just doing the thing that kind of sucks transforms everything. So
no question. And by the way, that's a good quick question for the audience and for myself. How did you get on TED Talks? That's amazing.
Yeah, it was kind of it was a cool thing. I mean, so I moved from Boston to here, and I just was poking around and saw that the town that I moved to was holding auditions and taking applications for it. And I said, absolutely. I'll sign that dotted line any day. Yeah. So
love it.
Next question comes in from the mighty Ben Fox.
Ben Fox is in the house.
Ben Fox is in the house.
Ben Fox is in the house. He's smart as a fox.
Absolutely. When a client hires you to be creative, how do you keep them in the loop while creating a speech or a video before providing, call it, the final product?
Yeah, that's such a good question. One thing that I've learned is a lot of times, more yes than no. You don't want to talk through the intricacies of what you're doing with a client if it's a creative space. Like, I mean, obviously you want their ideas, you want their goals, and you want to have an intro conversation, but people can't, and myself included, like a lot of times we can't express or articulate what we want, but when it's put in front of us, we go, that's it. Right. And so to me, it's that balance of understanding and making it like it was for me, and then giving it to them. And usually the alterations there or the feedback there is going to be minimal. And if it's not, it's not. But I think it's a fool's errand to take someone by the hand and say, all right, let's go. I'm going to make you this creative, piece of work. I need your input on every little thing. That's usually a disaster.
Very true.
Rob, finals, brother?
No, Eddie, you crushed it, brother. I really look forward to seeing you take those next steps. I'm excited. When is your book coming out?
It's going to be like at least a year. So it's way out there, but
okay. Awesome though. Tremendous. And I'm sure you're going to put a lot of thought into it and do whatever you do in your process. Thank you for sharing not only your experience, strength, and hope, your success, some of your trade secrets. And I look forward to having a private conversation with you and Dave about potential co-creation ideas.
Yeah. Well, hey, anytime. And I appreciate you guys for having me. I'm so excited for your success and all you've done. This is really cool.
Awesome.
Thank you so much.
Wrap it up, D.
Yeah, Eddie, I thank you for taking our stage and microphone. Folks, we are providing a stage and microphone for human excellence like Eddie Pinero. 257,000 subscribers to YouTube, 200 million streams worldwide, international speaker, author, probably going to run about 700 miles in the next maybe 2 weeks or so, and dime dropper. And, every single Tuesday, we are constantly looking to bring value to the entrepreneur, looking to merge ecosystems with people like yourself. And Eddie will obviously continue to watch what you're up to in the world. It's been really, really phenomenal. Any finals that you want to leave for the group before we conclude for this evening?
Yeah.
Well, thank you all too for your questions. I appreciate that. And, and hopefully this added some value. Feel free to reach out to me anytime. I love connecting with folks, and always happy to take questions, share thoughts, any of the above. So
amazing. You got it. Thank you, Ed. Have a great night, brother. And I'll make sure the team gets you a copy of everything.
Take care, guys.
Amazing.
Right.
Good night, everybody.